My name's Nancy Rowe, and I'm the principal timpanist for the Bangor Symphony Orchestra. I'd like to welcome you today to Timpani Basics 101. I think that the timpani, only to be superseded by the triangle perhaps, are one of the most misunderstood instruments in the orchestra. I'd like to take a few minutes to present some facts to you that you may or may not know about these instruments. The timpani, sometimes known as kettle drums, pauken, or timbales, are instruments of the percussion family and considered to be a membranophone. Membranophones make sound through the vibration of a stretched surface. In this case, the stretched surface is a timpani head. Heads used to be made of skin, typically calf skin, but these days, most timpanists prefer plastics heads as they are less temperamental with the variations of humidity and temperature. Timpani is actually the Italian plural. The singular form is timpano, referring to one drum. It is derived from the Latin term tympanum. Timpani were first found in southern and western Europe in the 13th century. They were originally around 20 to 22 centimeters in diameter and were clipped to a player's belt and used mostly in a military context. Larger timpani appeared in the 15th century with many technical improvements, including the manner in which the heads, then made of calfskin, were attached to the drum. In the beginning of the 16th century, the drums were equipped with screws to tension the heads over a hoop. These screws could then be tensioned individually to change the pitch, a laborious process at best. In 1812, a Munich timpanist named Gerhard Kramer developed a mechanism that attached the tension rods to one master screw or pedal. Finally, in the 1870s, the standard pedal timpani that we use today were developed. There are several types of pedal timpani, including the ratchet clutch, the friction clutch/post type, and the balanced action. This is a balanced action tuning pedal. The principle here is that when I depress the pedal, it pulls on these tension rods and stretches the head over the rim. Thus, when I depress the pedal by pressing down on the toe, the pitch goes up. Likewise, when I depress the heel, the tension on the head is loosened and the pitch goes down. As I discussed earlier, there are different types of pedals. The type of timpani that I use a lot in Bangor Symphony concerts actually has a clutch that you have to release and then move the pedal up and down on a post. There are usually 4 drums in the standard set of timpani. Occasionally there will be 5, a 20-inch timpano. The bowls are usually made of copper, although some of the less expensive school models may be made of fiberglass. They are usually arranged large to small, left to right, or in the German style, which is exactly opposite. Music for the timpani is written in bass clef. Each drum has a range of a perfect fifth, or about 8 notes. The 20-inch smallest timpano extends that range up to a middle C. Although there are many uses of the timpani in the orchestra literature, the drums typically play the bass line or with the brass. Probably one of the trickiest things involved in playing timpani is the tuning aspect of the performance. As you know, and I've explained earlier, the drums are tuned, and I'm always kind of surprised because people always ask me, why do you always lean over those drums like that? Like this. And the reason that you'll see a timpanist doing that is they're quietly trying to check their pitch, making sure that they have the right note. As a matter of fact, after a youth concert, I once had a young child ask me, why are you sniffing the drums? So the actual reason, as I explained, is we're checking our pitch. You get the pitch by hearing it in your head first. The initial tuning come from the oboe, perhaps a tuning fork. So what you do is you hear the pitch in the head, start with the heel down, lightly tap the head so that only you can hear it, and move the pedal until it goes to the pitch that you want. Once you have the pitch for one drum, you can set the rest. Now, in earlier music, like Beethoven and Mozart, it was very difficult to change the pitches on a drum, so they particularly only would write 2 or 3 pitches at the most. With the advent of our modern pedals, the more modern music calls for lots of timpani changes. At times you can even pedal very much like an organ. There are gauges on the drums that kind of get you in the ballpark if you have to tune in the middle of a piece. But sometimes you don't even have time to check those, because you do want to check them, they're not all that accurate. Sometimes you have to do it by feel. As a matter of fact, the main title from Star Wars has 47 different tuning changes. So you're just doing a lot of it by feel. And it's a real roadmap, but John Williams is notorious for all of his tunings in his works. So they're a lot of fun to play and quite a challenge. Here's a scale utilizing pedaling. Timpani mallet selection is very subjective. Most of the time, the composers don't leave us any specific instructions. Sometimes they'll let us know they'd like it dry or maybe short, things of that nature. But for the most part, it's left up to the individual timpanist what kind of mallets they would like to use. In any one piece, you may use 8 different types of mallets, sometimes only 2. And our choice depends upon many, many different factors, but some of the more predominant factors include the period in which the music was written, the style of the piece that you're playing or the particular passage, and how it fits in with the rest of the orchestra. Oftentimes we'll also try to match the articulation, particularly of the brass players with whom we tend to play a lot with. We'll try to match their articulation. For instance, if they're using a hard tongue and I'm playing something with them, I may want to use a harder mallet to try to match their articulation. So the type of mallets I have here, I like to have them left to right, soft to hard. This is a very soft mallet. It's called a cartwheel mallet. Sounds like this. I might use something like that in like the opening to Brahms' 1 symphony or something in a very legato passage. As I move up my array of sticks here, this is more of a medium type of mallet that is generally all-purpose. Sounds like this. Very different sounding from the cartwheel. This is a more articulate mallet. I would probably use something like this where the rhythm needed to be very distinct. And an even harder type of mallet, this is just plain felt. And sometimes we even use wood, and this is an instance where composers will specifically ask for it oftentimes. Next, I'd like to talk to you about a few techniques that are involved in playing the timpani. Number 1 is dampening. The drums by themselves are often very resonant. As a result, you need to stop the sound. To do that, I simply place my hand on the head, and that dampens the vibrations. How How long I hold the note depends, once again, on my judgment. It depends on how long the people that I'm playing with, the instruments that I'm playing with, are holding out their notes. It also depends upon, once again, how my part fits in with the rest of the orchestra. More often than not, this is not notated as well. It's also possible that you have to dampen very fast and dampen simultaneously. At times, you may want to dampen the sound or dry up the sound for a long passage of music. We have specific mutes that you can put onto the head that help with this. That's without the mute. This is with the mute. And this is sometimes, we'll even use a half mute. Another effect or technique that I'm sure you've heard and seen the timpanists use is called the roll. The roll is the way that we sustain a note. It's often used to bring a climactic section of music to its peak. Timpani rolls are unlike snare drum rolls, which utilize a buzzing technique on the head. Timpani roll, instead, uses the rapid alternation of a single stroke, such as this. From the symphonic dances from West Side Story call for an interesting effect in which the composer asks the timpanist to play the maracas on top of the timpani head. Needless to say, to play these on top of the head would be very awkward. Luckily, there's a pair of mallets that have some small shakers on top that will produce a similar effect. The interesting thing about this particular orchestral excerpt is that it also employs a technique called cross-sticking, in which one hand crosses over the other in order to shift drums. And then amid all this madness, there's a variety of accents as well as some tuning changes as this goes on. So Mambo from West Side Story. Another technique used more in modern music is called the glissando. In the glissando, you use the pedal to simply slide from one note to the other, like this. I hope this little video has helped clear up any misconceptions that you might have had regarding the timpani, and that you feel well prepared to answer any questions as a contestant on Jeopardy or Millionaire. If not, I would invite you to listen and to watch for these techniques during the next performance of the Bangor Symphony Orchestra. Thank you.